Please talk to me.
This is a bit of a dream for me because, as many of you know watching my channel, I'm a bit of a THX sound man, and the Empire Leicester Square was my favourite cinema, and I think Andy Summers here, it was one of his favourites too. Am I right, Andy?
Absolutely.
But I believe your favourite of all the 4 that we had in the day when I was going to THX cinemas in Britain was the UCI at High Wycombe, is that right?
Yeah, because it just had a different sound. It didn't have too much echo like typically with the Empire because of the acoustics, and you had an echo. But High Wycombe was purpose built from ground up, and it sounded phenomenal. I mean, anywhere you sat in the auditorium, you just feel bass literally pressing against your body, your hair, your feet, it's
just a bit like in here. I mean,
uniform.
We haven't been through all the demo discs you've got lined up for us today yet, but
just a few.
Yeah, and the one that Andy was most impressed with, Gravity, that was the one you...
Absolute stellar. Knocks all the other movies out the water.
And that's just a standard Blu-ray, the flat Blu-ray, and we've been sat in here, not so much listening to it, but feeling it. And I think that's one of the fundamentals of THX, wasn't it? You're supposed to feel the movie.
Just to enhance and make the other cinemas sound, well, it sets everything else aside. You think, why is this a big deal?
Yeah, and it certainly sounds very special in here. Yeah. But what you've got in here is not the sort of THX like I've got at home, which is a domestic THX, so different with what is known as THX Ultra for the home. This is actually the professional kit, isn't it? So how did you accumulate all this from?
Bits and pieces from eBay over the years, and just watching eBay for specific equipment and just looking for the lowest prices, which was many years ago now, were very, very low, but now the prices have gone skyrocketed after COVID. Everything's gone bonkers.
But there might not have been many cinemas with this kit, but there were lots of studios with screening rooms that had them. Mm-hmm. So they seem to spend the money on the screening rooms for themselves.
There would have been a few, John, a few more screening rooms in the UK that had the THX. You probably maybe not know, or maybe you do. There was a private little one, I think, at the Planet Hollywood, the first Planet Hollywood in Leicester Square, called the Rex. But I think Fred Fullerton's got a video that shows all just in the projection room, but nothing else of the actual auditorium or what it looks like.
There was another feature of the Empire, which is the laser.
Absolute.
I mean, it was simple by today's terms, and in fact we're now in touch with the chap who installed that laser. Fred managed to keep the original soundtrack to it, and he's let me have that. And so the video he shot, and Gaumont Cayley, that they've uploaded videos to YouTube, we've been able to rip those down and assemble a video of it, but of course much lower quality. So that's still one of the things we've got to fully sort, is the laser show, and we're now in touch with the man that installed it, and he's put me onto a box which is still around £1,000, but would actually work, he said, and in fact is even more capable than the laser they installed, what was it, 1989 I think, in the Empire. And apparently that was the first cinema in the world to have a laser. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I've been told. So the first one with the laser show.
It's the only one that caught my eye and attention. Fantastic. With
might be able to show a clip of it as we're talking, but not with the soundtrack, because I've tried and you immediately get copyrighted.
And I'm going to use the 5-screen matrix on these to cover as well. Right.
We've done a few comparisons with 4Ks and Blu-rays to Laserdisc, Andy, which, given what you know about Laserdisc and the original soundtracks that you put me onto, the film that set me off on knowing or understanding THX was Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, and when this played at the Empire, just that opening sequence, the music into the exploding moon, the energy wave, I thought I've never heard anything like this. It was actually a 70mm blow up with 6-track magnetic sound. Now, we ran the 4K first, and you weren't that impressed with it when you first saw it, but it looks really good.
With me, it's just hit and miss.
But the sound is very good on
Yeah,
it.
the sound is okay.
It compares very well to this. But this is Dolby Stereo, so the Dolby Pro Logic.
Yeah.
I thought this sounded better in here. What did you think?
Well, I kind of like... I saw that twice... No, 1, 2, 3, 4 times I think I did on its opening day.
Yeah, fantastic.
As well as having a little tour around one of the projectionists there, who was Elka Sharif. He kindly invited me up just to show the booth around, and we had cups of coffee. We sit in the coffee room, and you had like that opening with the rumble, the shockwave, and you could just feel it in the coffee room, on a concrete floor, and it just shimmering with vibration. A few days later, I saw that at regular Tower Park down at Poole, and no, it didn't have the same impact like it did on the 70 with the THX sound system at Empire. It was okay. The UCI cinema back in the early day when I started as a projectionist there back in '89. But it was all state of the art back then. It looked all wow, great. But
it didn't have the impact of the Empire.
Yeah, but after I left UCI a year or so later, I occasionally would go down there and watch a movie, catch it in SR sound.
Yeah, well, it's people don't realise how good that is, do they? It's all been superseded with a panacea of digital sound. But this is as close as I've heard Star Trek 6 to how it sounded at the Empire Leicester Square, only had more sort of reverb in the Empire than it does in here. Almost too perfect in here, young man.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's an SR print.
Yeah, well,
an SR.
I've actually got a 35mm print of this. Keith Walton and I went halves on, and unfortunately when it arrived, the small scratch down the left-hand side we were told about was actually a great emulsion scratch about a third of the way in, so we only ever ran it once. But one day I plan to run that on my present 35mm Kineton, now that Ben Wales has got the sound absolutely perfect, and that should sound just like that Laserdisc. Now, another one that was running when we got here, the Laserdisc 2, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I'll tell you what, this is another Dolby Stereo Pro Logic, isn't it? Matrix 4-track.
Yeah.
And this sounded absolutely fantastic. It's just, you certainly hear the bass in Raiders that you're not really aware is there. You certainly hear it in here. So you had that running. Was that because you thought there's a demo disc, Andy, or you just like it?
Demo.
Demo disc. So there you are. That's one that was running in here. And like I've been saying, there's something special about Laserdisc. But you wanted to show us a Blu-ray that you're really impressed with, because you've been having a few complaints really about Dolby Atmos tracks. And this one you don't have any complaints.
No.
And having heard it, I can see why.
There's only
I can hear why, I should say.
There's probably only a very few handful in the
Come on, get that disc out, let's have a look at it.
last 14 years has been probably only a very few handful that are really decent and really show off the system, and others are being hyped up too much and a bit of a disappointment, like Apocalypse Now 4K Atmos is very disappointing.
Well, we'll get on to that in a moment, but this, we watched the 2D of Gravity, which I've seen the 2D all the way through on the Blu-ray, and I thought it was better in 2D than it was in 3D, but I do like the 3D. Yeah, Gravity, what a great Blu-ray that is. And I think I've heard they're doing a 4K UHD version of that at the moment, but we'll see. But one that we wanted to have a look at, because we've been talking about it quite a bit recently, and this is the AC3 Laserdisc of Apocalypse Now. And look at this. Oh, isn't that a thing of beauty? I mean, yeah, you keep him talking, looking the other way, Suze, and I'll sneak that out of the house here. But this is the AC3 Laserdisc of Apocalypse Now, and we did a direct comparison of this to the 4K UHD, just like we did with Star Trek 6, and we're impressed with both versions, aren't we? I think we're more impressed with the Laserdisc, given...
I like the Blu-ray or the later versions, and then they keep the trend with the 4K by keeping the full aperture, the aspect ratio as it was, rather than zooming in on the image and cropping off the images to the side. And I saw a 35mm of Apocalypse back in the late 90s, no, mid 90s actually, down at the local Odeon. In one of the very tiny small screens they had.
Was that one of the Redux prints?
No, it's the theatrical release.
Yeah, and the colour on those.
Yeah, it looks okay. It had, it had scratches and all that, but
who cares?
everything else, the colour looked immaculate.
What about the sound though on a 35mm?
It was okay. It was okay. It was Dolby stereo.
Right.
But it wasn't immaculately big and
Yeah, not like the 70mm prints of it would have been with a 6-track mag and the split surrounds. And well, when they did Redux, they had Technicolor Resurrect in Britain, the IB Tech dye transfer process, and I believe, if I remember correctly from the extras, when they mastered it for 4K, they used one of those IB Tech prints to make this look just like Redux did in cinemas here in Britain. So wonderful work that went into this, and it looked just like an IB Tech print in here, which is what it does on my system. But Andy's got an Optoma UHD series projector. The black one, I believe, was the 3000 series.
A 2018 model.
Yeah, so that was probably a much higher end model than the UHD 550X that we've got, that we've superseded now owing to...
very discontinued.
Brilliant projectors. Wonderful image.
Yeah, when it like I say, the bulbs, when they run out, I'll just put another one in and just keep it running.
And in such a large case, it's just got that feeling that it's built to last.
Because I got a smaller ViewSonic projector around about 2019, I think, and then it was only maybe less than a year later, and then I saw that was cheap, and I got that because it was a laser projector, and I thought, okay, I'll try it out, see what the hype is.
So, try and walk us through how the sound comes from this disc player, Andy, into the room.
That's a Panasonic 4K player. HDMI goes into the Storm audio processor. Then from there, it goes through the XLR outputs. There are about 32 XLR outputs on the back. The sound travels down onto these Dolby DSU 4 decoders, where I can occasionally use them as a backup 5-screen matrix sound. Sometimes it might be on the film mix, it might be on the processor, but if it's not and I want to use a backup, then I'll use a backup. All the levels, volume levels and everything are all calibrated through that. And then from there it travels down to these Behringer DCX loudspeaker management processors. So the bottom one here does my LCR channel, which is just a typical left, center, right. The one above it does left, center, right, center, and sub bass or LFE, as well as I can blend sub bass to the left, center, right, center channels up here. I can recreate Star Wars, how the baby boom sounded, although it's not legit on the the Laserdisc, but I can sort of simulate it. The DCX above that, it does the additional sub bass, which is in the room, which is one sub bass speaker at the back of the room, one at the front, as well as bass shakers on the seats. And I'm going to do a little rewiring on this maybe in the next week or two. This one up here does my Dolby Stereo just for Dolby Stereo Matrix movies. So basically I'm just enhancing the surround channel level, or I can put a little EQ on it. I could do a little time delay. I can give it the impression that the sound sounds more in-head or kind of a bit more uniform. But that's going to be undone, and that's going to be connected up onto this Behringer DEQ, where it can do a few things. It's it's powered up, but it's not connected at the moment. Actually it is connected, but it's only connected to the left center, right center. Dolby DSU here is doing something like something special where occasionally you get music or with vocals on the left and right channel, and with vocals it sounds very distracting, because typically sometimes on some mixes we usually hear vocals in the center channel, where it makes logical sense. So I put this decoder in, which is connected to this decoder, which is A, I call it A, and this decoder B, and this decoder here I call C. And so the signal, when I press a button...
Cinerama, isn't it? A, B and C, Abel Baker Charlie.
Yeah, exactly. So I press that, and matrix signal goes out on the center signal, and it merges or blends in with the center channel. And I've got volume control over that. This decoder here, SDU, is connected to one of the surround channels, where I can create a below surround channel effect. So typically some sound effects where you see things or objects coming toward the screen and the sound tends to go on the side surrounds, and it's well, that doesn't match what I visually see and hear. The continuity of it is out of position. So I thought, okay, I put a decoder in there and divert the center signal, or the center phantom signal, which is going to a separate speaker below the seating. And so the movie typical that everyone mostly talk about, Unbroken, where you got about a 12-minute sequence of the opening of the movie with airplanes flying around, and so I want the airplane to go whoosh under the seat. I can demo that later if you want.
Well, it's got to be done.
And so the other decoders here, they just, like when they're switched to there, that does a 5-screen matrix backup. But unlike with Gravity, it's got a left center, right center on it. Or if typical, when you used to hear music in some very large cinema auditoriums, where I believe they had one of the CP200s downtown, and I think they had it wired in such a way so you hear the music kind of like on the left center, right center, I think. So it sounded very narrow behind the screen. But if I want to do that, I'll just boom, I press those buttons, and it sends the music to the left center, right center.
Which buttons again, Andy?
These ones here.
Right.
And that would send the signal left and right to the left center, right center. So if I want to listen to music in a kind of narrow sound field, or if I want to just go wide, I just press those buttons, send the signal to left and right wide. If I want to listen to music, it depends on my mood or whatever. If I want to run a traditional proper Dolby Stereo Matrix Laserdisc, I run the Dolby CP200, and then that power goes over to the Denon, or actually the Denon is partly the video processing for the Laserdisc to do a bit of upscale, and then that signal is on the HDMI, it passes over onto the Storm, that gets a teeny little bit of extra upscale, and the left total, right total signals they're on the Zone 2 or Zone 3 outputs on this, and they go over to the Sony. It is complicated.
Oh dear.
Everything comes back and then goes over to from the CP200. So, for example,
well, no one's going to follow this, Andy. I think
I know it is complicated. It's complicated. When you look at cinemas, and I believe there is one cinema. I think it's called the AV Silver or something. It's somewhere in America, and they have got an unbelievable booth that is so long.
All with equipment.
With just audio processors, some video, U-matic or something. It is absolutely yards long.
And someone's got to know how it all works.
And that's just for the audio processor. I think they got even the CDS in there.
Oh, really? For Terminator 2?
Yeah. But that's, of course, if they have a print. And I was so impressed with that.
Cinema Digital Sound, that stood for, didn't it?
I was so impressed with how that looked. And then one end, at the very far end, about 3 or 4 racks just for the amplifiers, and there were stacks just for one auditorium.
Well, it's a bit like in here then, isn't it? But the point is, it sounds absolutely fantastic. So we might have to do a sort of a summary of what Andy's gone through there, but it is genuinely impressive. And the way the screen is set up in here too, I won't be able to show too much of what's on the screen, just brief glimpses perhaps, but it's wall to wall, and with that sound it has got a major impact. So this is the way to go. Thanks Andy, we've had a great time here today looking at, well, comparing Laserdisc to the latest home video technology, and I still think this 4K of Apocalypse Now is a thing of beauty, but how special is that gatefold Laserdisc too? So I'd like one of each. I've already got one, so I'll have to work on the other.
Yeah, it's out there. They're out there on eBay.
But yeah, well,
thank you. There cheaply.
And Star Trek 6, great sound. Well, they're all great sound, and thank you very much for showing us your home cinema.
Oh no, I can do tweaks or a little bit of extra improvement. So
yeah,
but it was playing okay today.
A wonderful day. And,
well, apart from the heat.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, John.